You're watching us live here at Humans TV Africa. You're most welcome. My name is Katom Kasa to host you on this show. And of course, in the studio is my colleague Dennis Bongole, right in Uganda. And our show, every Saturday, we talk about issues to do with consumer rights. But these days, we are talking about agroecology and looking at food safety and, of course, how to make it possible for us to have food in our backyards. And today I have experts. I always have Mr. Henry Kimera from Consent, Mr. Bernard Bambale, of course, from Consent, and also Mr. Katende, Mr. Katende from Memago. Kakandi,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Kakande, Albert Kakande from Memago. So we shall be waiting for Mr. Mugisha to join us later. And of course, once he's ready to join, Dennis will be able to usher them in the studio. We are continuing with this episode where we talk about agriculture and, of course, responsible farming, responsible production. Agroecology is the topic today. We want to go back to Mr. Kimera Henry to give us a recap of what we covered in the last show. And I want to thank all our viewers in Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, those who are sharing our shows and taking interest in liking them and, of course, learning something from them. We are happy that we're doing that. Please continue. Mr. Kimera, we would like to hear from you. Give us a recap, but also give us a background for today's show.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I would like to thank all of you who are joining in and listening in. Welcome to yet our other series on agroecology. And I would like to thank you very much for last weekend's episode or the series. They were quite productive. And I would like to thank you very much for joining in and helping us to further push agroecology awareness and looking at aspects to do with soil health or soil fertility using natural resources. So colleagues, though the feedback that we got, the messages that came in were quite rich and the show was quite practical for all other people and it was a great inspiration. So colleagues, I would like to thank Albert Kakande. I would like to thank Richard Mugisha. Julius, it is unfortunate we were not able to join in. I would also like to thank our colleagues at Pelham who managed to bring all our colleagues together so that we share the different aspects. Our listeners, last Saturday, we looked at agroecology, its practices, and how it can transform nature and how it can help to regenerate or regenerate soil to good health. And we are greatly honored that we wish to continue with the same for the whole month of April and also go into the same linking up with organic in the month of May. So colleagues, you're most welcome once again. And I would like to welcome again Mr. Albert Kakande and also the others who are still trying to join in. Bernard, you're most welcome back. Last weekend you were busy somewhere still with regards to food safety. So this month or this week, Saturday, we are looking at agroecology.
Yes, agroecology, realities, resilience, and production.
So, yes, look forward to all the engagement. And Kato, please, you can take us forward hereafter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kimera. Thank you so much. I want to welcome Mr. Kakande for this session again. Thank you so much for joining us. I like the background you are in. I'm always challenged and say I wish I was in that kind of background. I like green person. I like life. That life you are really having. You have arrived. You are enjoying my own life. I'd love to.
I know.
I love
Hey,
gardening. I love that environment. So, Mr. Kakande, how about you greet
yes.
our viewers? And of course, you talk about briefly about Memago, and then we shall be able to have a go at it. Mr. Kakande, most welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, our viewers. Thanks for joining us again for yet another exciting agroecological talk. Agroecology, organic. It's Memago Agroecology PGS group here. That's the group I lead. It's a group of organic agriculture practitioners, agroecology implementers, and enthusiasts. We are based in Wachiso here, and we try to put a brick onto the change, the paradigm shift from a degraded land, from a climate wasted environment to a conserved and resilient ecosystem for our health, the health of the plants, the health of the soil, and all the creatures that God created us and gave us dominion over. So welcome for today's episode. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kakande. You are doing a great job. And of course, I want you to remind us what is
Yeah.
PGS before we go to Wambale.
PGS. This is in organic agriculture. When we are looking at quality assurance for the market, for the consumer, before we go to bigger bodies, certifying bodies of the countries, of the states, we look at the level, farmer level quality assurance systems. And PGS is participatory guarantee system. Now, this is an IFOAM approved system that guarantees organic agriculture quality for produce for farmers. Now, PGS works on principles of trust, working together, collective marketing, to ensure that what we bring to the market organically for the consumer is actually organic and is actually of quality. So we work in groups. PGS works with farmers of maximum 30 members, such that each farmer is the supervisor of the other, such that there is no mess up in the process of creating a product or bring a product on market for the farmer. If we say we are not using any agrochemical, farmer A should have an eye on farmer B. Farmer B should have an eye on farmer X. If I put a knapsack on the back, my immediate supervisor should be my group mate, asking me what is in that knapsack, and then I will say, no, it is the organic pesticide which we made the other time as a group. So I'm going to deal with the pests that have attacked my vegetable, something like that. So that is PGS. It is a quality assurance system for organic agriculture at farmer level.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kakande. Now, Mr. Wambale, Bernard, the network is giving us some bit of challenges right there with Bernard Wambale. But of course, our viewers know that we do live streaming and we rely on the network connectivity of someone's location. So you bear with us. Now, I want to go to Mr. Kimera Henry. Mr. Kimera Henry, as an expert on these issues we're talking about, agroecology. For the sake of our viewers joining us, because I know each show there are those who are joining us for the first time, let us revisit briefly what is agroecology and why is it so important right now for people, especially in Africa, where our production of food is going down. Why is it that we must talk about agroecology today?
Thank you very much, Kato. Why is it very important that we need to look into our food production systems? And that you will appreciate that there are many forms of food production and very different approaches. It is very important, given the climate change challenges, given many other aspects that environmental degradation, a lot of human activity. When you look at aspects of rearing, and people are doing industrial farming, where the basing on populations, that with the big populations, we need to increase production. But most of the times, the production is unsustainable in one way or another. So it is very important that to increase and bring about safe food is always good to look into sustainable ways, both production of food in in rural, urban and urban areas. Like behind me, I'm seated. Akande, you prompted me to where I'm seated to look for a small plot where there is an agriculture. One has
In
got
fact, I love your
spices, shrubs. Yes, because Kakande prompted me to do
I
that.
was about to comment
So,
about
and
your beautiful background.
yes, and then to go
At
where
least a
they are
banana.
a few banana trees. So that's why I opted. So in all these aspects of the challenges that are faced by food production, environmental health, looking at water source challenges, looking at health and nutrition, it is very important now we rethink how we produce food, to rethink how we consume food, and to rethink in which environment we are preparing the food in and we dispense it in. So this is why it is very important for us as different players. Not only farmers should think about it, policymakers should think about it, the business community should think about it, and us, the consumers, we need to think and think positively for where the food comes from and how we access it, how we prepare it. And one of those aspects is agroecology, the aspects of how best we regenerate the soils that produce for us the different types of food. How do we improve, maintain and improve the quality of the air, the quality of the environment, the way we are handling it? Some of the most important things that now we can look at as consumers, policymakers, and so forth, and picking up from what Mr. Kakande said, the participatory guarantee system would need to see if the food is produced agroecologically well, how do we handle it up to the stomach? Because food might be agroecologically produced, but we handle it wrongly, and then all the attributes of sustainability, attributes of eco-friendliness, the attributes of regenerating the soil, and if the harvest is handled badly, all the aspects and benefits will be gone, will be pushed down the drain. So the aspects that now we are looking at the different potential, that's why the topic of today, agroecology has the potential of resilience, as a potential of scaling up resiliency, responsible production, and consumption. Just imagine agroecology doing the resilience, agroecology bringing in the correct production. But after harvest, the way food is transported, the way food is handled, the way food is dispensed, is not safe and doesn't attribute to health, then all the aspects of agroecology would have been wasted and watered down. So it is key as we talk about these agroecological approaches, principles, we enshrine safe handling, using good processing materials so that the food is not contaminated until the consumers access it. So that is what I could say for now, looking at the food systems approach, and also sustaining the practice and doing things in a correct manner. So that is what I can say for now, Kato. And my colleague Bernard and Mr. Kakande can add on from that angle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kimera. Mr. Bernard Bambani. Back to you now. I think I can see you properly. Your network is right there. Very good one. Now, Barbara, if you can hear me, I would like you to share with our viewers your perception, your understanding of the issue of agroecology and why it's important today in Africa to adopt it. Why should we go agroecology in Africa, and why our farmers, our viewers must take it seriously? What's your take on that? Bambale, can you hear me? Bambale, I can't hear you, but I can see you. Now, as we wait for Bambale to get the network done properly, let us have a look at a few videos I've got from the field. Mr. Kakande there and Mr. Mugisha sent us videos and photography of what they do. Let us have a look at that. Dennis, let us have a look at a few videos, like two, and then we shall be able to come back with Bambale when the network is sorted.
These are the kinds of trees that we put in banana fields so as to maximize on the water retention, mineral, mineral upkeep and things like that. So we talked about the earthworms, you see. Now, by so doing, we are attracting these micro and other organisms into the soil, incorporated into the soil, such that we have a solid field. Now, you cannot do farming minus integrating it with animal husbandry. So this is a good span, and if you realize, if you see below here, these are pits of compost. Here we are trapping goat manure composts into. So like we saw last week, we looked at how we can conserve the soil. Basically, we are talking about soil health. And we said, if we go back to the indigenous knowledge of how our grandfathers used to conserve the soil and maintain the health, I talked about trees like albizia. These are the kind of trees that used to be planted in a banana plantation. Now, I've visited one of my farmers. Remember I told you we are in Mende sub-county where Mema operates. So this is typical of what an organic farmer, a modern organic farmer should do. Now he has mulched with
Yeah, we can see a beautiful garden right there. We can see bananas, but with well mulched grounds. It's all covered well, so it means can maintain water in the
maize straw.
ground. When you
Now,
have a look at that
we are
video,
going
you
to use
see
organic
the
fertilizer,
importance
maize
of
straw and cobia, one
covering
of
your
them which
soil.
is in potassium and phosphorus. Now, like I was saying, if we are to build the soil, if we want to build the soil profile, in the next season, these straws will have broken down. As they rot, they break down and they make part of the soil profile. Now, all the ingredients in this are being built into the soil, and you're building to the health of the soil. Hence, having a banana field which will not need a lot of application of manure. Remember, this already is saving almost 50% of the moisture in the water. So the soils are very moist. It will take the whole season without the banana lacking water. So you can see this is what we are talking about. These are the practices we want our farmers to go back to. Remember, we said last week, this is not new. This is what has been working. This is what our grandfathers did. So we can go back to such practices. You can see this is the first harvest. This is the first fruit. These are the first fruit. It's a new banana field, but it's well catered for organically, agroecologically. I mean, we are seeing synergies here. So this is what we meant by conserving water in the banana field by mulching. Now, the next thing we are going to see is our farmer doing trenches, because you can see the slope is coming up, the water is running downwards. So we are going to construct A-frame trenches, which will trap the water, bring it into the field, keep it, conserve it, while the mulching maintains the moisture in there. So this is what we do in Mende sub-county particularly. And proceeding with
No, the
what we
sub-county.
saw the other time, how agroecology and agroecological practices really help in soil health. We looked at mulching. If you see, during those days of our grandparents, our forefathers, these are the stems of the bananas themselves. So the moment they cut down a ripe banana, a red banana, the stems were split up to cover the ground. Like you can see, it is the very stems that we use to mulch, to cover the ground. Now, this ensures there is moisture in the soil. So this is the simplest a farmer can do. Yeah? With time, you can see they are degrading, they are breaking down. Now, the more they degrade, the more they break down, the more humus they make. You see? So besides adding other manures, this is now farmyard. This is farmyard manure. So on top of that, cover mulching. We looked at the maize straws, how we use them to mulch. So they are breaking down. This is now rotting, breaking down, becoming part of the soil. You see? So if you could see how we integrate again other crops, intercropping. So this is all about agroecology now. There must be several plants. For animals, we have aloe vera here. We have coriander as feed. So these are integrated into the same garden. So agroecology is all about synergies. I mean, different things surviving in the same ecosystem. Now this is ficus. These are the kinds of trees that we put in banana fields so as to maximize on the water retention, mineral, mineral upkeep and things like that. So we talked about the earthworms, you see. Now, by so doing, we are attracting these micro and other organisms into the soil, incorporated into the soil, such that.
Thank you so much.
Now, you cannot do farming minus integrating it with animal husbandry. So this is a goat's pen, and if you realize, if you see below here, these are pits of compost. Here we are trapping goat manure, composts into pits, compost pits. So after this, we are able to make our solid manure that is going to feed the banana field. So by so doing this, we are sure our soil is going to be enhanced, healthy, and hence having healthy health soils and health foods and health people. So these are practices that we must do. We must encourage our people to do because they are simple. These practices have been around for years. We just need to revisit our minds and take off the veil of artificial ways of doing things. We must then we shall ensure our ecosystems are living, ecosystems are alive. You see?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kakande. That was an education to me and all those interested in agriculture. Of course, we grew up seeing these things, but we are abandoning them. Today, we have seen again what our colleagues are doing in Uganda. And that was really a big lesson for those interested in saving and conserving their land, their soil. To me, it was a lesson because we grew up seeing that and we never lacked food. Today, we want to go and buy fertilizers, buy whatever, and we can keep water right inside our soils. Because I saw the importance of covering your soil. That is mulching. if I remember my agriculture. That is
Yes.
how true. Yes. So now, to me, it was a lesson, and of course, the integration of rearing animals like goats, and then with your how you can harness that production of goats, cows, sheep, whatever you have with your soils. To me, that's the way to go. Look at the bananas; they were so green. The stems were so live. That is life. And I do think that if we go back to the basics, we are going to have food back in our backyards. Mr. Bambale, you are most welcome.
Thank
Of course,
you.
our viewers know that we are always live, and sometimes network is a challenge. Now, but before you go on with
Yeah.
you, Mr. Mugisha, if you can hear us, the producer says that your microphone is inactive, your camera is inactive. Please, may you exit. Leave the platform. It's going to put you back. If you can leave the platform and join again, perhaps you're going to be able to sail through. Mr. Mugisha, if you can hear us, or if anyone can send you a message, please leave the platform, then we get you back. Your microphone is inactive and your camera is inactive. Now, that is it. Mr. Bernard, we are looking
Yes,
at
please.
ways to put, we are looking at ways this program is basically to help our farmers, including myself, including ourselves here. How do we keep food in our gardens? How do we avoid food shortages? Because there is a food slavery, if I can put it that way, where we are depending on the market to buy food when we have land. Why should someone in Busiro, in Buganda, in Kabarole, in Kasese buy food? Because even when we have just a quarter acre of land, you can have enough food. I'm seeing Mr. Kimerawa is in his backyard. I'm seeing bananas. I'm seeing food. I'm seeing we're utilizing that ground you have. I'm seeing Mr. Kakanda and I'm admiring there are all sorts of fruits. I mean, why should we in Africa lack food? So the issue of this topic today is how do we help each other to put food on the table using the resources we have? Because remember, without food, we are slaves to the markets. We are slaves to those who are able to sell us food. That's why we are here to encourage our farmers that whatever piece of land you have, you can make it productive. Now, Mr. Bambale, going forward, what's your take on the topic today?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mukasa and Kakande Chimera, for introducing this subject. Apologies that I wasn't able to be with you last week, but I'm glad that I'm here, even when the network is starting to a little bit disturb, but I think you guys are hearing me. Let me just confirm that you can be able to hear me, and then I proceed, right?
We can hear you.
All right. So to begin with, you realize that agroecology promotes diversity on the farm. And every time you have diversity on the farm, it simply means that you're likely to have diversity in the market as well. And if there is diversity on the farm and diversity in the market, there is a possibility that then you must have diversity on the plate. And that's where nutritionists come in there. To ascertain that every time you have diversity on your farm, you can guarantee diversity on your plate. Many of our children and many of our household members are actually suffering from malnutrition just because of mono diets. And why mono diets? Just because agroecology has disappeared from the narrative that we are supposed to be speaking about. And also, we need to reflect on why is agroecology or diversification of farms dying out. The issue is about the demand for food items, which are actually produced as monocrops. Look at an example. If in our schools, we have more than 17 million people in school in Uganda, and each one of them is consuming at least 3 plates of food per day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But all of them are eating maize and beans. So it's posho and beans. So meaning that many people, because there is available market of these 2 monocrops from the schools, people are not thinking about diversification of their farms because they are sure if I have 2 acres of land of maize, then I have market for the schools. So we're asking ourselves, why can't schools also start having diverse diets? If the schools
Yeah.
had diverse diets, it means that the diversification of farms would come in handy because people would be producing diversity of food on their farms because they have ready market given the aspects of the schools and other institutions of learning and the army and the police who are actually ever feeding on monotonous diets. So as part of promoting agroecology, we would think that let us first have demand for diversity on our plates so that the demand on diversity on the plate will stimulate diversity on the farm because the demand and supply has to come in handy here. But as a matter of fact, I know that we have diversification of farms, but the farms which are agroecological, which are adhering to agroecological principles, are actually very few in most of our countries. And so they may not sustain the entire country because many of the farmers have run away from the realities of agroecology, diversification of farms, to other things, monocropping. And that's where the challenge is. And that is why many people are starving. You find that a community is planting one kind of food because they are running away from agroecology. You find a whole community planting maize. So where will they get potatoes? Where will they get banana? Where will they get Irish? Where will they get beans? So at the end of the day, you find that malnutrition in this country or in our African countries could have an association with running away from the realities of agroecology. And that is the reason why agroecology must be refocused and we start encouraging our people to come back to the real things of agroecology. If you look at agroecological principles, you're dealing with nature and nature is sustaining itself. You have birds, you have rabbits, you have, chicken, and every other thing. So you have both plant and animal sources of food, unlike people who are doing monocropping. But also we have to ask ourselves, why are people running away from monocropping? People do not want to go slow. People are very fast. People want to have, fast kind of stuff. Someone wants to produce food in 2 months. Someone wants to produce food in 3 months. But as you know, from the first session, we're talking about why we need to be slow. The slower you go, the healthier it becomes when it comes to production of food. So why would we run to produce food very quickly? We get money, and then we go and use the money to treat ourselves. So that is why you also realize that the poverty rates will always remain higher. Even the farmers who are actually feeding the world are actually the poorest. Why? Because they're producing one kind of food, they are selling it, they want it very fast, they get a lot of money from it, and go and spend the whole money in the hospital setting to treat themselves. And this is where the aspects of issues are. So as a matter of fact, we need to think about some bit of how do we encourage our communities to actually produce diverse food, which will certainly diversify the markets and which will certainly diversify the plates. And actually, if everybody was doing some bit of agroecology here and there will be minimal cases of malnutrition because the household will be having a lot of food to eat. But the challenge is that the moment people started running away from the realities of agroecology and ran away to monoproduction, they end up having fertilizers, a lot of manure, because they are rather synthetic chemical compounds being used because the nature is not dealing with itself. Also, when you look at people who are not practicing agroecology, there's a lot of mess that we are undergoing currently. You realize that you cannot produce anything unless you have fertilizers. Why is that so? Because the microorganisms in the soil that were facilitating growth and development of our plants are no longer there. They have been killed by the chemicals that we're actually using. And so at the end of the day, you go into synthetic production, you contribute to the disease burden of the country, you contribute to the poverty rates of this country, and also you contribute to people having unable to access food. So when we are discussing aspects around agroecology, we need to factor in those things that work with agroecology. If you look at the principles of agroecology, you realize that there's a lot of, each of the enterprises is communicating to the other. In the situations where you no longer have birds, but you have rabbits or other things, they can be able to actually hold you at ransom. You're able to get resources amidst. So it means that once you have diversity on your farm, courtesy of agroecology, you're able to have numerous things interacting, poverty goes away. Because if you don't have food to sell, you have a goat, you can sell a goat. If you don't have a goat, you can go into the rabbitry and pick up something. You can never sleep hungry because you have a lot of food there, etc. So I think that we need to rethink the nature and the way we talk about agroecology, and it has to be backed up with support from government. The environment under which we are operating should be clear, but also where are agroecological farmers getting the market for their produce has to come in handy. How do we advertise agroecological products? Every time I go on TV, I see only wrong food being advertised. The agroecologically produced food is never advertised. How would people know that actually this food still exists? And that's why the guys who are doing synthetic are more or less competing, because they have the money, but also they are able to advertise it. While us who have agroecological products, we are not advertising them. So I think there is a lot of stuff that we need to undertake to make sure that agroecology comes back on record of this country and across the countries of Africa. Let us promote it. Let us make sure we live agroecology. I told you last time, when partners who are doing agroecology are organizing seminars or workshops, why would they give us food which is not agroecologically produced, and yet they are promoting agroecology? We need to speak agroecology from the realities, but also we need to promote it so that people can have access to agroecological products. Agroecological products must be branded so that everybody knows where we can pick them and how we can actually have access to them, and the cost of those products. Actually, you realize that the cost of agroecological products is a little bit higher than the synthetic. Why? Because you're actually buying life. You are not just buying food, you're buying life. So basically, I think that is it for now. I think I'll be building on what the colleagues will be talking about. But of course, as Henry says, we need to think about how do we ensure that food which is agroecologically produced remains safe across the value chain. So I think Kato, for now, those are some of the bit of insights that I can bring on board for members to add on, and we continue discussing the subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bwambale. Thank you so much, Mr. Bwambale. Now, Mr. Julius Echedu has a problem. If anyone can reach him, his microphone and camera is not active at all. I think we had to help him understand how to join the studio, but this was not done in advance. But if someone can tell him to activate his camera and microphone, or leave the platform, then join the studio again later and also activate his microphone and camera. Mr. Julius Echedu, if anyone can reach you, or if you can hear us, please, you are in the studio, but we cannot let you in because you haven't activated your microphone and camera. Now, having said that, we are going to continue with Mr. Kakande. Mr. Kakande, you took us back to our old days. There's someone called Aisha Ntabadde. I sent a very beautiful message there saying that your work, this is the message here, that the video took me back to the old days of my childhood. We could help Mama cover the plantations, keep it up. We need to watch more of such videos shared. You see that positive energy. Thank you so much, Asha. Asha Ntabadde, thank you so much. Now, honestly, you took me back, because me, I call myself a villager. I was born in Kampala, but whenever I went to the village, I loved my village life even more. My grandparents used to cover. See, these are the videos. You can see they used to cover the gardens, the plantations with lots of stuff like that. You know, you get the banana stems, you split them up, you cover your garden, and our gardens used to yield beautiful, bigger bunches of bananas. Today, we have abandoned that kind of thing. You look at this ground here, it's healthy because when it rains, it's going to retain water. Now, we need to go back to this. When Asha sent this message, it reached the bottom of my heart too, because it was reminding me of how we used to do it in the villages. Today, we are all into buying fertilizers. We are all into spraying and all this kind of thing. But we could go back to the basics of how we could lack food. I remember my grandparents used to have enough food for our home, but also to sell. Today, it's a bit the reverse. For them, they are dead, but for us who took over from them are the most
Yeah.
hopeless ones. We no longer have enough food. We are always
Mhm.
crying. How can you cry when you have 1 acre of land? When people have a quarter of your land and are producing enough food, in countries which have less land, they are using that little land they have. Israel is an example
Yeah.
because they know how to harness their land. To me, this is the lesson. Mr. Kakanda, back to you. Take us through, people want to really go back to the basics. What can we do to ensure that we
Mm.
have the basics, to ensure that we have enough food for our families and, of course, for the market? Take us through those basics to tell the farmers in your trainings.
Mm. Yes, Bwana Kato, looking at the basics, like Bernard said, it starts with simple steps, you know, and I always tell people, for you to go organic, for you to go agroecological, it starts with the mind. If your mind switches on that I need a field that is organic, agroecological, healthy, hence I'm going to eat something healthy, it starts in the mind. The problem we have, like I said last week, there's a lot of pressure. And Bernard has hinted about it. People are no longer patient. You know, uh, when you define what organic agriculture could be, I mean, these are practices we do on our land today that will not compromise on the generations to come. Now, what I'm doing on my land today, can it be resilient enough that my grandson will find the same land as active as it is now? If you put it in your mind that what I'm doing on the ground cannot last 3 years, then you better think again, better cancel yourself and revisit these simple practices, because it will be very shameful if I am doing farming on a piece of land, a 50 by 100 piece of plot, and I am investing a lot in agrochemical inputs, fertilizer, this, pesticide, this, insecticide, this. Trust me, I'm going to eat the banana today, but a year after, that small field will not be able to produce. Now, count yourself as the killers of the ecosystem. Now, what you need to start with is switch on the mind that if I'm getting this 70 kilogram bunch of banana from this field, will my grandson be able to fetch the same in the next 15 years? It starts there. It starts in the mind. It's just as basic as the mind. It's a mind game. Switch on, get the passion for it, mind about the health. I mean, we always tell people, if you really want to uh, to see the relevance of what we are telling you, visit a bigger hospital where cancer people are admitted, where diabetic, high blood pressure people go for medication. Then you will appreciate that when these guys talk about organic agriculture, agroecology, all those things, it's not a joke. You know, you come, feed a maize grain that you have planted in the ground on day one, feed it on I won't mention the name, feed it on an agrochemical, on an input, in the name of stimulating the roots, in the name of making it grow fast. But this crop will not argue with you. It will say, Master, on day one, you gave me such an input. I was honest enough, I kept it into the stem. On fruiting, I passed it on to the fruit. And here it is for you to eat. So you eat it wholesomely, all in small increments, but cumulatively, it becomes a problem. This is why we see a lot of health issues, lifestyle diseases. Now, you saw in that short video, it is as simple as harvest your garbage, your rubbish, your kitchen refuse, cover the ground, give room for micro and macroorganisms to grow. You saw the earthworms there. For you now to detect that my
Yes,
soil is healthy enough, I mean, the simplest litmus paper is the earthworm. If it is present, then we have health there. It will not survive in a chemical infested ground. You know, it is going to enter the ground. It will break down whatever you've put there as mulch. It's going to improve the aeration in the soils. It's going to when it defecates, it becomes part of the you know, these micronutrients, the magnesiums, the magnesium, those insects there we see. If we could work towards nurturing those ones, bringing those ones back to the soil, then they can do the rest of the work. It is just as simple. I mean, you have bought your bananas, you have peeled them. If you don't have an animal, a goat that is going to eat them, put them on the ground. I mean, put them in the small field. You know, it could be a backyard. I'm looking at the that banana plant of Mzee Chimera in the background. You see, it could be one stem, one banana stem. It could be two. You know, you see, and make sure I am now bringing back these worms to the ground. They are going to do the donkey work of making the soil really resilient enough. You know, in such a soil where you find those worms there, I can cultivate year in, year out, doing the same practice. You know, when the leaves fall, these microorganisms, these earthworms, these crickets, these termites will be breaking them down and creating more soil for me. You see? Hence, the soil is getting healthier every time that I cultivate, every time that I mulch it. You see, we have a smaller, I mean, micro, we call them the microbes. Those microscopic organisms that are charged with breaking down the nutrients in the soil microbes. You know what the knapsack, the chemical knapsack, is doing is killing those ones off, like Bernard was saying. You know, we have ways of culturing them, inviting them, growing them again, and planting them back to the soil. You see, minus the microbes, you can put your nitrogen there and it will not be broken down because the cook is not there. If the cook is not in the kitchen, the food will remain there raw, you know. So it's very vital that we invest in such small practices. They are not only to cover and maintain the moisture, but their houses, what should I call? I mean, this is where the microbes now live, the habitats of the microbes. Which microbes are now going to penetrate the soil and break down the phosphorus, break down the potassium, break down the calciums for the plant to be able to take in. Trust me, you will put an input, you'll put a DAP, you'll put an NPK or what, you know, in the soil, but if these organisms are not there to break down the vital nutrient for the plant, you know, the plant will be as vegetative as it is without any value add. Bernard was saying we eat things but that are not adding value to the body, you see. So we should run away from just eating to survive, but eating to be healthy, especially we who are endowed with such African soils and climates. I mean, there should be no reason for us not to produce food because these practices are there. Now, this is why we come up to say, well, let's teach the farmers at grassroots levels, in farmer groups, in farmer families. So there's what we call farmer family learning groups, FFLG. It's another approach equivalent to the PGS. Nearly they work the same. They are all charged for hyping this farmer to produce organically, responsibly, while maintaining the quality of the soil. You know, the resilience. I mean, create the synergy. The ecosystem should be as healthy as you found it, and leave it for the next generation as healthy as you want it today. So this is why we labor to do those small basics. You know, so that's just a simple thing in mulching. Just a simple thing. Then yes, we shall appreciate we are living in an increasingly urbanizing setting. I mean, but food must, I mean, we must eat. These days there is backyard gardening, you see. No, even if you have two stems of cassava, that is good enough. You know, 4 tubers of cassava these days in the open market is 5,000 Uganda shillings. Imagine a single tuber like this is about 1,500 to 2,000 shillings. Now, if I have three stems planted just in the compound, and I saving about 20,000 Uganda shillings
You are saving a lot of money.
you are saving a lot of money. You see. Now,
Yeah.
look at a bunch of dodo amaranth. You know, you find a bunch you can hold in the palm like this at about 2,000 Uganda shillings. Now, what does it cost for you to get a few seeds and sprinkle them? They will grow themselves. You have amaranth in the compound. You can grow yourself a small cherry tomatoes in the compound. So such practices, I mean, we just need, now I'm going back, we just need to retune the mind, let the mind be re-switched on, because we grew up in these kinds of settings, but we lost track along the way. Now we just want to drive back. Unfortunately, we need to drag our
Mr.
people back
Katwandi,
on the road to do that. Yes, Bernard.
Mr. Kato and Kakande,
Please go on.
Yeah.
there is something I just wanted to a little bit add on what Kakande is saying. There are some questions
Yes,
that
please.
we've never answered. Currently, we are struggling with aspects of climate change, and we are not reflecting on where these issues are coming from. But in principle, it is just because the agroecological practices are no longer practiced, and that is why climate change is at the top of the agenda. Just imagine you can take a whole year or two when you have never seen a tapeworm or you've never seen a caterpillar. Unlike our days, whenever it rained, whenever it was coming to rain, you would start seeing these tapeworms coming out of the soil. Currently, you can even take 4 or 5 years when you've never seen a tapeworm in most of the gardens. Why? Because they are running away from the synthetic nature of the soil where they cannot survive. These days, you can never see bees relocating from one place to another. Unlike those days where you would see a swarm of bees almost nearly every week, you are able to see bees relocate from one point to another. So we need to ask ourselves, where did the bees go? And these are the pollinators we have at hand. If you can take a month or two or even a year or so and you've never seen a swarm of bees relocating from one place to another, those are all signs of climate change. But why are they not relocating? Because they have nowhere they have to move to go and do pollination. Where they are supposed to go to pollinate, the environment there is already having a lot of synthetic chemical compounds that cannot sustain them. So climate change should not be looked at as, increasing weather, whatever temperatures and all that. It should be looked at because of the nature of practices that we have undertaken and left the original practices that we're doing, that we're actually attracting all these things. So agroecology is really not about only food, but it's about the nature, the environment, the climate. So if at all we move back to agroecological practices that Kakande is talking about, we can actually solve the problem of climate change, as well as solve the problem of food insecurity, and at the same time solving the issue of malnutrition in Africa. So I think we need to consolidate these things and we see how each leads to another, and then we can be able to have kind of a framework that many of the governments should be looking towards. You don't promote agroecology as just food. You're looking at it in terms of food security, nutrition, climate change, resilience, and eradication of poverty at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bernard. Now, Mr. Julius Chedu, I think we haven't been able to have you today because of network and, of course, failure to connect. Next time, we shall request you to come a bit early in the studio so that you can be able to navigate the system. Yes, when we come a bit early, maybe 20 minutes to time, we shall be able to navigate. So, whoever, if you can hear us, Mr. Julius Chedu, we are sorry we couldn't get you on time. Now, Mr. Chimera, as we wind up, it has been a very interesting program. We'll have to see where we went wrong and how to fix it. Because I've been thinking, when Mr. Kakande was talking and Bernard here, that how often do we see worms in our soils? How often do we see caterpillars in the backyard? Why? Because we have killed them with the chemicals. And therefore we have dead soils. Now, when we have dead soils, there's no way you can expect a better yield because the soil is infertile, if I can use that. Now, I've been thinking when I'm in the village, how many caterpillars am I seeing these days? How many worms am I seeing? Because we used to see them, moving around. You go to the garden, it's all full of worms. Today, you don't even see them. It means our soils are literally dead. So, to me, this program is so important. Farmers must know where you went wrong and how to fix it. So, Mr. Kimera, as we wind up this show, give us what we can take home.
Thank you very much, Kakande. Thank you very much, Bwambale, Kato. What we can take home comes in from Kakande, Bernard, and you, Kato, for your inquisitiveness and reminders. Also comes in from Asha, encouraging and inspiring, going back. I like the way Kakande said it. I like the way Bwambale said it. We used to practice agroecology so many years ago. Then modernity led us to abandon it. But those who abandoned agroecology before and then led us in what they call modernity are the ones now telling us to go back to what we used to do. So that means that we have the knowledge, the skill, the experience. It can be indigenous knowledge. So what we need to do, many countries are doing the national agroecology strategies, is to intensify them. And I like the aspect that the approaches, the principles of agroecology are not only about agriculture, but they are all about in everything that we are doing on a daily basis. So we will need to mainstream agroecology in all our national operations. Like I always say, we will need to put quality culture in everything that we are doing. At home, what I am doing, am I contributing to the revival, the regeneration? As I practice this at going to place of work, even a small contribution on any form of life we are doing, it's the mindset, like Kakande said, it is stopping the mono practices. Like Bernard says, we have a mono diet, we have a monoculture of agriculture, we have a mono mode of many things. It goes to governance. We need to have an agroecological way of thinking in governance. How do we sustain the environment on which we live? How do we nurture it? How do we nourish it? Do we need to do tree cutting through land grabbing? We need to curb all that. You see, when you look at agroecology, mainstreaming it and looking at it from a broader way, you'll find that governance has a role to play. Some of the bad practices that are leading to deterioration, degradation, are due to bad governance, bad practices. So we need to take in good governance of every aspect of humanity so that it reflects the ecological approaches of life. The environment is the foundation of life. So these are things that we need to take in. And we need not only talk about them on TV, we need to practice them from our household to our communities, to our divisions, like my Mago is, to the districts, and then we take them to our national level and the global world. That is how I look at it, so that we have safe food, safe water, safe environment, healthy and nutritious humanity. That's what I can say, and end up by saying if it is not safe, it is not food. But if the practice is not safe, then it is not a good practice. If the decision is not safe, then it is not a good decision. If transport is not safe, then it is not good for the consumers, not good for the environment, it's not good for the roads. So everything, the agroecological thinking of building synergies, coexistence, co-creation needs to be done in everything of humanity. That's what I can end up with, and I thank you very much. And I look forward to next week. We will be looking at still agroecology, but bringing in the other aspects. Organic is inseparable from agroecology, but we are bringing it in so that they bring in the diversity of all these aspects. So small steps in the right direction. We all start with baby steps, and here we are, grown-ups. So let's do the same to all good practices that sustain humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kimera. Now, Mr. Kimera, that was a good one, a wrap-up. Mr. Kakande, I'm very interested in what you do. And when you say we're within Ibusiro, Wakiso, that is part of my area. But also, I'm interested in you teaching my people how to do these things. Yes. And when I say my people, of course, in Africa, they are learning right online, but also in Uganda, if there is that kind of company where you can also go and we link you with farmers.
Yes.
If we have that kind of outreach, we link with farmers, go train them.
Do that.
Yes. I know, because that's the kind of thing we want. Because we want to talk, but also do action. That's why I was requesting, please show us some videos. I'm happy you showed us those videos. Now, next time I'm going to request you, please show us how to make manure, how to use locally made pesticides, the way you used to use them. Someone should show us so that we can be able to know. Let us not go to the market to buy chemicals. We can use this. You take us through these processes and we see, then we can be able to adopt. Now, going forward, you talked about an area where we were and the soils were so bad, full of stones and all that stuff. And you somehow transform them into something useful. Now, as we leave this platform today, I'd like you to share with our viewers your parting shot. But of course, hoping that next week we shall be with you, talk more about the next steps towards organic farming. So, Mr. Kakande, back to you.
Yeah, my parting shot today, of course, to start with it's a consultancy. We do it quite often, farm setup and training, fertilizer making, manufacturing. We quite do it on farm. Invite us and teach your workers to do it.
Before you forget, now, if I want to do it for the people in diaspora, because I want to connect them with you. Now, I'm not in Uganda, and I know other people are not in Uganda, but they have their soils, they have their farms, they have their gardens, they have their 1 acre, 2 acres. You can do that work for them. Someone is on there, simply agrees with you. You go there, do the planting, do everything. You can do that as a consultancy.
Exactly, because I mean, that's what we aim at doing. We aim at scaling up this thing. So you hire us, we go. 2 weeks ago.
Then I'm saying business for you and your team. Hey, anyway, that's a good news there. Let us have your parting shot.
My parting shot, of course, small steps in the right direction will get us there. Let us get tuned. Let us get fed up of lifestyle diseases. If we get fed up of them, we shall then go back to doing the best things. Of course, I can't part without encouraging us to go back to the indigenous food now. You see, because the real health now is in there. You see, take some cocoyam, take some there are those yams, the climbing yams. You know, these are the foods now we need to revisit. You see, they are selling us medicines that are extracted from these very foods which we used to have. You see?
Yeah.
Now, if you that piece I showed you, those hard yams are there. Back then, that used to be pigs' food. The leaves used to be just pigs' food. But now in the markets, you go find a kilogram of such. If you don't have something like 5,000 Uganda shillings, you may not get it. It's just now a marketable thing because it is a rich food. Now, I always part with the. Now, this is a cherry tomato. You see,
Wow.
this is something you can. It's something you can do in the even if it's on the veranda. One interesting thing why I showed you this for today, it has an ingredient called lycopene. Can you imagine this cherry tomato has the capacity to create a sunscreen on your skin to protect you from sunlight just by eating it? And an interesting thing is, someone with an oily skin, if you have acne or pimples, just break it or put on the skin, and just a naturally organically raised cherry tomato in the backyard. The simple steps we're talking about.
And that's how our grandparents were able to live for 100 years anyway. By eating healthy. We have diverted from eating healthy. We are buying things which are not good for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Kakane, for that education. And of course, I'm going to encourage friends and to think about giving you work. Think about working with you, the consultants, to make their farms better, because sometimes you get people who don't know what to do and you don't get even enough yield, and yet you are putting in money. So we need experts like Kakande, Mr. Kimia, and others to help us do the farming the best way. Now, Mr. Bernard, as we wind up, what's your parting shot for today's show? Bernard, you are muted. I can't hear you at all. Unmute. Bernard, unmute. Unmute. I can't hear you. Bernard, unmute. I think you are trying, but yeah, unmute. Unmute yourself. I can't hear you. Bernard, unmute. Yeah, go ahead, please. Bernard, we are looking forward to getting you as you give us your parting shot, and we shall be out of here for today. Bernard, still waiting for you, but as you come back, or wait for you, let us have Mr. Kimera for your parting shot. Mr. Kimera? Yes.
Yeah, my parting shot as Bernard comes on, it's not very different. We were driving in with Bernard yesterday, coming in from Mbale, and I would like to concur with Mr. Kakande. Food is going to be our livelihood. Food is the foundation. But we look, as we drive along these community roads, how people abuse the food, how people are, even the monoculture that we are on, the mono diets, will need to be sustained by diversity. So it will be very key. As we talk about road safety, we also talk about food safety. Unfortunately, most of the roads are being used by our farmers to dry, or traders to dry their produce. But like I was saying earlier, that just imagine the way the cherry tomato Kakande was chewing it and enjoying it, but somebody picks it up, brings it onto, and just handles it wrongly. All the attributes of agroecology, its organicity, all its nutritious aspects will be gone. So as we continuously advocate and train people, let's make sure that we bring in the attributes of sustainability, but also the responsible consumption needs to come in. How we operate, how we prepare the food, how we serve it, and how we consume it. Because the attributes, all the things that we are saying, once food, the way Kakande is showing us, is handled, and then the bad handling comes in, the bad processing comes in. Our campaigns, our awareness, like Paul, you would like your colleagues in the diaspora, if the people who are on their farms handle the food well, and it comes to the market and it is handled badly, then it is all about food loss and food waste. So we'll now need to look at these things from a comprehensive way, that as we are promoting sustainability with the inputs, with the production, with the processing, we need to have it responsible, and the dispensing, and even us, the consumers, to handle the food in our households in a sustainable and responsible way for it to be safe. Thank you very much. I don't know what happened to Bernard. He must have totally failed. But it is, he's coming. Bernard, please take your shot, please.
All right, thank you so much, colleagues. The network wanted to misbehave, but I think I'm back. So one thing is that I think I need to end with this. There's always a question that has always failed people. The question of who feeds the world? Who feeds the world? The world is fed by soil. I think that is the best answer we can ever give. So who feeds the world is the soil. So the moment we don't take care of the soil that is feeding us, we are all eligible to dying of hunger, even when the so-called food is available. But as long as the soil is not really well handled, then it is likely not to produce food for the world, and all of us are likely to die. Maybe to the government. Every time you check the budgets of this country or our countries in Africa, you will realize that there is a budget for agriculture. But what is in that budget is actually agriculture input that are actually synthetic. When you look at our budgets, it is very rare that you'll see an appropriate budget for agroecological practices. So it also goes back to government. How do we plan and budget for agroecological agriculture to ensure that people are able to produce safer food, to ensure that farmers are able to have access to extension services that are geared towards improving agroecology, etc. It comes back also to the training. All our extension workers now seem not to understand the subject of agroecology. That is why most of our farmers in the communities are being trained on synthetic production, because our extension workers are also indoctrinated in terms of, synthetic production. So I think we have to go back to the drawing board. How do we build the capacity of agricultural extension workers in the area of agroecology? How do we appreciate it at national level? How do we budget for it and ensure that our people receive inputs that are agroecological, support that is agroecological, so that we can support our farmers to go back to the drawing board of agroecology and promote safer food production, but also safer food for consumption for consumers. I want to thank you, and we catch up again next week. And I'll be grateful again to join the team next Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Bernard. Thank you so much, Mr. Henry Kimera. Thank you so much, Mr. Albert Kakande, of course, for those practical videos. And I look forward to seeing more of the hands-on to remind us of what we shall do, what we must do to avoid buying food all our lives. Mr. Kakande, you have something to say? You have something to say?
No, I was saying more videos are coming. Actually, the real field, the practical lessons we teach in the field there, we'll be sharing them, and we shall be learning quite a lot from what we can do on our fields.
Please do that. Yeah. Because one thing is, it has to be buying food when we have land. To me, it's the biggest punishment I have. To buy food when you have land. We never have experts like you to help us get food. So thank you so much, guys. It has been an honor to have you on this show, Mr. Kimera, Mr. Kakande, Mr. Bernard Bambale, and of course, Dennis Bongo in the studio. Thank you so much. Mr. Mugisha wasn't able to join us because of technicalities, and of course, Mr. Julius Echedu were never able to join us. But hopefully, next Saturday we shall be having them on the show. Thank you so much, everyone watching, for sharing this on Facebook, and whoever is watching, please tell them to watch and know how we can put food on our table. See you in the next show. That will be Saturday. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. It was a great honor.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.